Shawn. I'm with the Coffee Shop Bakery, and we're here at the Galt Old Town Coffee and Cars event. We do a segment each month where we pick my favorite car of the event, and this month I've chosen a 1912 Ford Model T Touring, and I'm with the owner, Jim Snow. How you doing today, Jim?
Great, thank you.
So I chose this car because this car is 105 years old, and to me it's incredible that something like this is still on the road. And there's so many neat things about this car, the way it's built and the little mechanical caveats about it that just make it so unique. So Jim, why don't you tell me, so did you buy this car as a complete project and build it, or how did you get it?
No, it was a project car, but basically everything was here for it. And 1912 cars are getting a little hard to find, but it's a very nice car. 22 horsepower, kind of an automatic transmission that Model T made in those years. But just a real nice little car. I restored the wheels, the paint.
So let's talk about the wheels. So it has actually wooden wheels. So you were telling me, I asked you earlier why they did wood instead of steel. It's actually a steel outer rim with a wooden inner, but you were saying that basically, what was the reason for the wood?
They're a lot cheaper and they last just as long. Oak never breaks. These are original wheels right here. They've never been changed on this car. And this car, I've driven it probably 10,000 miles, and it's still running the same wheels.
So 10,000 miles on these wooden wheels. That's crazy. So tell me, so the engine you said is how many horsepower? 22 horsepower?
Yeah, 22 horsepower.
Okay. And so some of the things I wanted to point out about the car that's really neat is, so this would be basically your temperature gauge. So you look out the windshield and you just watch this as more or less your thermostat to see if the car is overheating. There really is, there is a speedometer, and is there any other things instruments inside?
No, that's it inside, except a key switch, which is off and on.
So just an ignition switch and a speedometer.
Yeah.
And speaking of the speedometer, I was noticing earlier, so this cogwheel here on the one front right wheel spins and drives another mechanism that drives a cable, and that's your speedometer.
Yeah, the gear back there runs off of that, and that runs the speedometer inside the car.
So tell me about these lights. You said they're carbide. Explain that to me.
Right, a carbide generator is on a car, and it creates carbide with water and carbide, and it makes actually acetylene gas, and that's what burns the headlight. The cowl light is kerosene, and the tail light is kerosene, and you got to light those. And in the day, they used them like a flashlight. When they come home, you always get it out the right side of the car, and they just grab a light and walk into the house and they have light.
Wow, so it's really utility. So we were talking earlier about the use of the brass. This is what we consider a brass era car. Now, is this one of the, what was the last year of Ford where they used this much brass?
15. 15's the last of the brass cars.
So 1915.
Yeah, but 15 doesn't have as much brass as the 12 does. 12 has a lot of brass.
And the reason they use brass, you were telling me earlier, was that it was easy to work with as far as shaping components and things like that. Easier to use than, cheaper than aluminum and other soft metals, but easier to work with than steel and things like that.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, before we had like a lot of use of plastics. And I mean, there's probably really nothing on this car that's plastic, I would say, at all.
Nothing plastic.
So this is a Model T Touring. So a Touring was a car that was more like a four-door sedan, cabriolet more or less, with an open sides. But this thing does have like side curtains and things that could be snapped on for bad weather.
Yes, they do. They have under the back seat is all the isinglass, and then the doors for this car. This car came with doors and without doors. I do have the doors for it. And you put the doors on in the wintertime, your isinglass, and it's nice and warm inside.
So I noticed the luggage on the side here is the, so this is like basically your luggage rack. So they also had where you could put a gas can or something on a running board too, right?
Yeah, that opens all the way up. It'll fit that whole deal where you put luggage in there, gas cans in there, because they only hold 9 gallons of gas.
So 9 gallons of gas. What kind of mile? Well, it's a small engine, so it probably gets fairly good gas mileage, right?
20 to 22.
20 to 22.
Yeah, if you keep, the speed down to under 50,
What's the top speed on this, you think?
50, if you want to keep the motor.
So you can actually do 50 miles an hour in this. That would be pushing it.
I guarantee you're going to break a crank.
So speaking of crank, I would like to demonstrate one of the last things I'm going to show is, so this car basically doesn't have a traditional ignition where you turn it. You have to crank start this car.
Yes, but you got to turn the switch on. But first, if it was cold, you'd have to prime the car and all that. Should start right up
You
now.
prime the carburetor with fuel?
No, you crank it, you pull the choke on, you crank it a few times, turn the key on, and sometimes it'll start on, just turn it on.
So you told me once that, I mean, this thing, the engine has compression, so you have to get it to a right, when it's on the right stroke, in order to crank it and get it to start. If you got on the wrong spot and it kicks back, it's got a lot of kickback. You actually said that you actually broke an arm or something doing this before?
Yeah, I broke this arm just like this, and then the other day, this little bump that used to be in my arm, it knocked that off, like that one.
Yeah, well, this is a really unique car, and like I said, we very rarely see cars this early on the road. It's just a testament to the workmanship of a car that was a mass-produced car in its day, that it's still around today, and probably could be still on the road someday when both of us are gone. And that's, to me, is just something you just don't see anymore. So we're going to do a little test demonstration of starting this. Actually, Jim's going to let me try to start this car, so hopefully I don't get injured doing it.
All right.
Well, here we go.
I'm going to watch you.
All right. So, thumb down
Okay,
like this.
push it all the way in.
Okay.
Right there, pull as hard as you can.
Okay.
Again.
So I have to go in each time?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Pull fast.
There we go.
That's how easy it's done. And it's running.
That's so cool. So it's not exactly like a Tesla or something nowadays. Very, very neat. Well, Jim, we appreciate you bringing it out today. It's such a cool car, and I know you actually have some other early cars of this era, some other unique cars that are you're working on. So maybe someday we could see one of those out here, and that would be great too.
Yeah, no problem. I ain't got a vehicle to haul.
All right, well, that'll conclude our segment for our Coffee and Cars for August. Again, this is the Shawn's Pick of the Month, 1912 Ford Model T Touring. Thanks for watching.